Welcome to the 95th episode of Wednesdays for Waste Warriors. And we are very lucky, privileged, and honored to have Shekar Prabhakar from Hasiru Dala Innovations. Thank you so much for joining us. Um, it's
Thank you.
really an
Thank
honor
you for having
to,
me.
to be talking to you, to be listening to your story, and to be learning so much from you. So thank you for joining. Wednesdays for Waste Warriors is something that started about 2 years ago in Feb 2023. And we've been inviting a warrior, a champion from each part of the country, sometimes from outside of India, to learn from why did they stick to what they wanted to do. How did this waste management become their mission, and what are the plans, what is the future like? So we've just been listening to their stories, and members and participants who join are free to ask questions and replicate those best practices in their cities or communities or neighborhood. So this is just like an interactive get together of a role model and us common people. Thank you for joining. I welcome you again.
Please don't call me role model. I'm just like you guys. No.
Well,
All
so
right.
thank you. Um, the first question that comes to my mind is, um, who's Shekhar Prabhakar? You went to IIT, you went to, you went to the most premium institutes. So you will be expected to do those premium kind of things. How come this?
Which I did actually. So,
Yes. So
yeah.
how come you migrated or transitioned to this? So who's Shekhar Prabhakar, and how did this influence happen in your life?
Sure. A typical middle class kid, as you said, the best of schools and colleges. I was lucky enough to be able to go. Grew up in Madras, and you know, uh, post IIM, I joined the IT industry. My first company was Wipro, and uh, and then I've been in the IT industry in sales and marketing. I was there for about 24 years in India, then in UK, then in the US, uh, and it was a pretty standard, corporate career. Did okay there. I came back to Pune in from the US in 2007 as to head up marketing at Zenzar Technologies, an RPG group company that I had worked for before in its previous avatar as IKIM. And That was when I felt that I could never be a CEO, and I didn't want to be a head of marketing kind of thing for the rest of my career. So I pivoted and became a professor of marketing at Wellington Institute of Management here in Bangalore for nearly 8 years, a little more than 8 years. But if what influenced me to do what I'm doing today is Nalini, right? Nalini Shekhar, who happens to be my partner as well. So she has been working as what I would call a social activist. She's worked with child prostitutes in Bombay, child labor in about 18 states in India, in domestic violence and sex trafficking in the US. But when we came back to Pune, in our first stint at Pune in 92, 93, 91 to 93, she, along with Lakshmi and Purnima, set up the first trade union of waste pickers back at that time, and which is called Kagas Kash Kashtagari Panchayat, which has now spawned Swatch, the cooperative of waste pickers. So when we came back to Pune, she went back to working with waste pickers. And was the secretariat of the Alliance of Indian Waste Pickers, which is a alliance of multiple waste picking organizations and NGOs in the country. So when we moved to Bangalore in 2010, she found that no one was talking about waste pickers and their contribution. So she decided to start at the ground level again, trying to organize them on the ground. It took her 6 months to get the trust of the first waste picker, to even give her details and so on. And for those of you who don't know Kannada, Hasiru Dala means the green force in Kannada, a name chosen by waste pickers, a community that we work with. And she just used it as an umbrella brand and tried to work with other NGOs. She didn't start an organization, but she didn't get the momentum that she wanted, and therefore started the not-for-profit Hasiru Dala in November 2013, and I became a trustee there. And all along, of course, had exposure to them because of her previous work with waste pickers. And I was very happy in my job as a professor. I think it was very fulfilling, not very demanding, though most professors would hate me for saying that, but very fulfilling, and I had a pretty cool life. Now, in 2014, the local municipal corporation, BBMP, decided that bulk generators of waste will not be serviced by the municipal corporation, but will have to manage waste on their own through private empaneled service providers. So some people came to Hasiru Dala not-for-profit, specifically Nalini, and said, why don't you become an empaneled service provider? You anyway work with waste pickers. We'll obviously pay you for the services. So no business plan, nothing. They just jumped into identifying Lothfur, a waste picker who, as an entrepreneur, who somehow figured out a truck, and they started with 3 apartment complexes managing at-source segregated waste, municipal solid waste. Now that grew to about 40 apartments within a year. Mm-hmm. So obviously, the not-for-profit was not the right organizational structure for scaling a business. I facilitated as a professor. I facilitated a workshop to figure out what to do. So should we do a cooperative of waste pickers, a Section 8 company, or a private limited company? Given many factors, and to be able to attract equity capital as well as human capital to run the business, we decided to go with a private limited company, and that's how Hasiru Dala Innovations was born. And just a few weeks before that, when I was in the trustee's office, Annamma, a waste picker who I knew, had walked into the office with the 3 daughters, and the youngest daughter walks up to us, to me specifically, and gives me a handwritten English invitation, inviting us to the Gro Pravesham of their new home. Now, I knew Annamma as a bag-carrying waste picker, and through the dry waste collection center program, where a dry waste collection center at a ward level was given to a waste picker to operate, she had got one, and she had turned around her life. They used to live in a hut which used to get flooded every little rain, right? And now she had accessed public housing land, built her own house, and here she was, and all her 3 daughters were in school. Now one of them did her CPET. So I said, if one can bring about in their lifetime a quantum change in the quality of life, then this is what I want to be doing for the rest of my thing. But I didn't know how, because I didn't have skills to be in the not-for-profit. But when this came up that we could actually start a company, I impulsively at that moment said, I'll be part of the company. I'll invest some money, and so me, Nalini, and Marwan became the founders and co-founders and promoters of Hasiru Dala Innovations. We started it in November 2015. So that's how I moved. So this is my second pivot to become an entrepreneur of a social enterprise, and it's been a great journey so far. We're going to complete 10 years on October 8th. So it's been a long journey.
Beautiful. It's like
Thank you.
I had tears in my eyes when you shared about that invitation and that that life transformation. It's so important for them. It's unimaginable for us, probably because we always had a home, a safe shelter, all that. But for them, it's like, my goodness, this is.
Yeah, and all that they needed was access to opportunity. I mean, she did all the hard work right at the center, running the business, learning how to run it as a business. So that's what I keep talking about. It's about equitable access to opportunity, right, for livelihood, for entrepreneurship, for education, healthcare, and so on. So once you are able to give equitable access, then it's up to them. Just like not all our peers have done well in life, though they had the opportunity. So it's the same thing with them as well, but they never got the opportunity, right? And that is, I think, what we're trying to do, right? It's about access, it's about agency, it's about aspiration.
I
So,
100% agree with you, and I'm so happy that we're talking about this today because that accessibility, that agency, sometimes it just gets lost in the PowerPoint presentations and the big retreats and the big conferences. But the person who's supposed to be on that table representing themselves never get a chance. So, you guys are doing an.
and that is something that we have. So at the last five global plastics treaty sessions, the INCs, it's been Indumati, a waste picker turned entrepreneur, who's been representing waste pickers from India, not Hasiru Dala, right? Someone from Hasiru Dala just goes there as a translator for her. So it is about giving them agency. Our waste speakers have been at the COP, have been at the UN webinars in Thailand. So it is about them. It is about how do you provide them the opportunity to, because waste speakers have traditionally, right? It's been a cross generational occupation. And a lot of them come to it are on, and it's saying, ye mera naseeb hai. This is my destiny, right? So you have to, but when over the last many years that organizations such as Asrudala, Swatch in Pune, so many Chintan and Delhi, they what all these organizations have been able to do is to say your circumstances are not the end of it, right? You can go beyond. What you need is access, and that's what all of us have been trying to enable and empower them to be able to take those opportunities.
We had Sarika as one of our waste warriors last year when she had gone for the big seminar. I think it was somewhere in Brazil or somewhere.
Mhm.
And then she came back and uh, you know, she was one of our. And like next week, we'll have Harshad from Swatch, who will be our
Right.
guest. So it has been a very, like, I'm feeling so kind of, it's a very warm feeling and very blessed feeling because I didn't know that Pune connection part, but I'm in Pune and I
Oh,
interact with all these people, especially the Swatch people, and their stories are incredible. They are so
yes.
genuine, so hardworking, so amazing. But unfortunately, the people who pay taxes, they don't seem to care about them, or they don't seem to think that they are also they also deserve that respectful, and that dignity should be uh,
Provided.
is a part of it's not like somebody cannot provide it. It's just their rightful it's a right, but that has been a very big challenge here, and I'm sure it's in every city because of course there are two types of people everywhere. um and like you said that while setting up in Bangalore, it was a very big struggle, and you saw that. And it was not like ancient times. It was in 2000s, like 15, just 10 years ago, when we were already introduced to plastic, and we were already consuming so much plastic. Otherwise, when I was in school, and I'm sure when you were in college, that that plastic was not a big problem for us.
As much.
We were all
Right.
that sustainable dabba leke jao and all that stuff. So in a city like Bangalore, which is such a cosmopolitan, and of course at that time Bangalore was much bigger than Pune, even today is. What were the hurdles or obstacles that those people who are the lifeline, let's say, were not recognized or were not given their due?
Yeah, the basic challenges waste is an urban local body issue, right? So conceptually, the minute waste leaves your premises, it becomes a property of the municipal corporation,
Mhm.
right? So a waste picker picking up waste from the road is conceptually stealing from the municipal corporation. Uh, uh, so, in fact, the local slang for waste pickers meant that they were thieves, and any time there's a robbery in a neighborhood, one of the first people are rounded up are the waste pickers in that area because they start work at 3 before the collection system starts, right? And they think get swept off. So to pick up anything that is of value, right? So you had to go from there to both everyone, society in general, but definitely the government and everyone to recognize that they are actually contributing to the city's cleanliness, right? And are doing a service for which their only payment is what they're able to sell, right? And their only expertise is identifying what is tradable, right? And sorting it so that they can maximize or optimize their revenue, right? So you and I can become a waste picker tonight because there's no employer-employee relationship. There's no true license to be got because can't give a idle, and you have no working capital requirement,
Mhm.
right? Which is one of the reasons why a lot of migrants have started getting into waste picking because if they don't get the job that they want or think they can become a waste picker. 2 3 days they'll figure out what is of value and what is not because they go to the kabadi wala and he'll say, I'm not going to buy this, right? So it's a very quick learning that way, at least in the initial stages. So one of the things that we needed to get done was how do we translate this gray occupation to actually a recognized occupation, right? And Hasiru Dala moved the local Ayukta to give guidelines to the local municipal corporation to give occupational ID cards,
Oh.
right? So for the first time in the country, a municipal corporation gave cards which said Annama is a waste picker. So the occupation was written as waste picker and then an address. For many of them, this was before Aadhaar. So
Mhm.
for many of them, it was their first
But
government issued identity card. Most of them don't have birth certificate. They don't even know when they were born, right? They typically were only numerically literate, sometimes not even arithmetically literate. So for many of them, it became the card became the document zero, as I call it, right? And they were able to start accessing, a bank, social security schemes, and so on. Right before that, they couldn't even be part of the system which gave things. Right now, of course, Aadhaar has changed a lot of that, but we were able to demonstrate this. In about a year, about 8,500 waste pickers got their occupational ID cards, which allowed them to have MOUs with the BBMP to run the dry waste collection centers, right? Again, a first in the country where the MOU is directly with the waste picker, not Hasiru Dala or any other organization, right? And we, along with people like Harshad and others, we were able to take it and include it in the Solid Waste Management Rules 2016, where for the first time waste pickers were defined by law, as a rule within the government, right? And also gave directions to urban local bodies and panchayats to enumerate waste pickers and give them these occupational cards, right? So right now, for example, in Karnataka, we got it then into the bylaws of Karnataka, and now multiple cities are working with Hasiru Dala to be able to give those cards to waste pickers across 18 cities. So a lot of people said, "So what's in a card?" But it was a big deal because for the first time it was recognized as an occupation, and therefore they said, "Okay, we are actually contributing to society." Right? We have an occupation that is dignified. We are doing something that is of value to society. Right? We're not doing anything unclean or on the fringes or whatever. So those are the things that move the needle in terms of their own self-worth as well, right? So, and what is possible from them.
It's actually a big deal for them. Like, you have a label, like you have some identity. And couple of years ago, there was an ad by Swatch, मेरे पापा देश चलाते हैं. जब हम वो schools में जाके वो ad दिखाते हैं, तो there's pin drop silence in the classroom, because in the municipal corporation or the needy community schools, they identify with that child and with that father. But in the privileged schools, they are like, they have no concept of someone, like a
Their
child
existence.
who can be proud of their parent doing this. So there is absolute, that I hope that it kind of has a ripple effect and people become more inclusive and more respectful of all professions. Because we saw in COVID, if they were not there working
Yeah.
all the time, we would be, it'll be like doomsday every day for all of us. But
So
they did.
through the lockdowns, Hasiru Dala Innovations was the only company in Bangalore which gave uninterrupted collection and transport and processing services to all our clients. Right, only one day or the first day of the lockdown, we couldn't because they took time in giving us the passes for the trucks. So the first day of the lockdown, we couldn't provide the service. But so yeah, it is. I truly, we have approached waste management like a essential utility service, just like water, electricity, telecom today, and so on, right? So, so one of the things when we were designing the operations of our collection and transport services for bulk generators, we said, how do we ensure 99% quality of service, just like telecom does, right? And today, all our clients who have continued to stay with us for many years are paying us for the services and renewing it with an increase only because of that reliability of our service, right? They don't have to use their bandwidth or mind space to figure out whether the waste got collected or not, and whether it's getting processed properly. So uh, I feel that's the reason why they stay with us. Nothing else really, right? Yes, I mean, they like the fact that waste pickers are impacted. They like the fact that 90% of their waste is diverted away from landfills. But the reason they stay is because of that. So you also have to figure out what your paying customer truly requires, right? What is it that they would value truly and therefore stay with you?
It's it's not their headache anymore, and that's what they want. Like one
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
box checked off their list of many things which is more important to them, and here is someone else, for them this is more important because it's going to be their livelihood. So it's like a perfect win-win.
It's a match, so to say.
And unfortunately, I've seen in Pune, I can only talk about Pune because, and I've gone to many colonies with the Swatch ladies, when people have refused to pay, the basic amount. And their point is that we are already paying this tax, that tax to the municipal corporation. Why should we pay for picking waste? It's their job. This is, but But the point is, it's only like it used to be 70 rupees per month, and now it is like 80, 85. And it's not at all a
for
big deal.
for for for
One
daily
household.
service, if you go to
Ha,
yeah,
imagine.
if you go to say if you go to say California, right?
Yeah.
They typically pay about $600 per quarter for 4 days of service in a month, right? They come and pick up only once a week.
Yes.
So the polluter pays principle is yet to get hold, right? But I think it's moving. For example, from April 1st, the BBMP has started charging SWM user fees. Uh, Unfortunately, based on the square footage. Anyway, that's okay, but it's now you have to pay it as part of property tax, right? And if you're a bulk generator using our services, you get you need not pay, right? Uh, uh, so um, so it is changing. Bombay is introducing so a lot of, but I think the concept of polluter pays principle uh, needs to, because most people, in fact, the last few years, this whole thing of wealth out of waste,
Mm.
which is a big myth. Because end-to-end responsible waste management is actually a negative value process. Someone has to pay for it,
Yes.
either the government through the taxes, through its revenue that from taxes, or the generator, right? Which is why the polluter-pays principle. And now we also have producers through the extended producer responsibility. But that is, I think, fundamental to be able to manage waste, especially in growing cities.
Absolutely. So that polluter pays is like, I believe that it must be a mandated thing. And the more you produce, because the poor people, or let's say the people who don't really have this, the online and all that stuff, they don't generate so much waste. The people who are able to,
So, for example,
yeah,
our pricing model is also on the pay-as-you-throw model,
very good. Yeah.
right? Which means we weigh the waste every day, and we charge the highest for rejects per kg, lower for wet waste, and the lowest for dry waste, because you can get some revenue out of the dry waste, right? Like paper, plastic. So the concept there was that also to incentivize people to segregate, because if it's mixed waste, I'll charge the highest. All right. So you can actually, so today, all our 333 clients, bulk generator clients, we have nearly as 95% segregation quality level, right, into three waste streams. So which is why we are able to actually claim 90%, right? 90% will be diverted away from landfills. So it's, you know, and it's interesting that you say this, right? For example, if you go to a slum, there'll hardly be any wet waste other than peels, vegetable peels or fruit peels. But as you go up the socioeconomic category, there'll be a lot of cooked food,
Yes.
right? And also, we have found, for example, in very high net worth villa communities, uh, the wet waste is very high because everyone's doing their protein shakes and fruit thing, salads and so on. So you actually have more wet waste there,
Yes.
and it's about 65 to 70% of what a villa community person actually generates. It's an interesting thing, right? So while in the Western countries, interestingly, wet waste or organic wet waste is not that much. It's 20 to 30%. And a large part of it is, I mean, if any of you have been in the US, for example, taking a doggy bag, I mean, back home, right? And eating leftovers is fine. But in India, we don't want what we ate for lunch, right? Especially as you go up in your income categories, you want everything fresh, so stuff like that. So it's very, very interesting how cultures and how consumption habits differ.
Absolutely. We were in the US, in Virginia, and we used to have the dry pick up separately and the wet separately. And plus, the county had started their own composting and garden, and that
Mhm.
was promoting people to come in who cannot compost at home. They can come and give their like the peels and all that stuff in that public community compost, and then they could also get the soil. They would give the bags, they would give, the even the pet potty
But you
bag,
paid for it.
everything. Yeah, and
But,
that was
but
a
you paid for it.
yes,
No, no, I'm saying,
of course.
if you pay for it and then expect the service, perfectly fine. It's
Yeah,
when you, for example, I'll have a villa community, the management association sit and say, no, 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 I'm not going to pay you 160 rupees per month per household for 30 days of service. And they sit and crib about 10 rupees and 20 rupees. All of us today, uh, when you do a Zepto during surge,
yeah,
you actually pay about 70 rupees extra. I don't know if you have realized that, but or the tip that you leave at a restaurant, right, is much more than that. People are willing to pay for security, for landscaping, for housekeeping because they want their immediate environs clean and comfortable. But the waste just has to get out of the place, right? Not in my backyard. That's all they want, right? And so waste, every time there's a new management association, waste management is the one that gets cut,
yeah, absolutely.
right? So for us, every renewal with a residential community is actually a new sale. So,
Absolutely. I think around 2 months back, I was contacting all the residential societies here for a source segregation workshop. And they were like, do we have to pay for it? How much time will it take? No, the management has changed. We'll do it next time, next year. I said, it is free, and you'll just learn how to reduce your problems. No, we cannot do composting. It stinks. It has flies. It has this. It has that. See, that means you're not composting properly. But they are just not willing to listen, because I think they are running their housing societies just like the corporate things that,
yeah, yeah,
I'm the boss, you are the follower. I just don't know
yeah.
why we don't have harmony, and that sustainability is not important. God
I
knows.
know, I
Well,
know.
I hope that polluter pays is kind of a
So
hope.
I think I think it'll change. I think it'll change. It's taking time. But I think waste management, there's no rocket science to it, in my opinion. It's just what it needs is political will, citizen participation, right? These are the two things. And of course, uh, service providers like us, and the municipal corporation itself can be a service provider, but just that they do it, they do what they say they will do. But it's just sheer political will and citizen participation that will make this happen. There's nothing else to it, in my opinion.
Absolutely. So, what what has been, like you mentioned, that the invitation card, that itself, it sounds like a great success or maybe a motivation to start. But in all these years, like 10 years, what has been really frustrating, or a challenge that could not be resolved? Like you said, this housing society thing, I can totally understand. And what has been a victory that you're really, really proud of and you would like it to multiply?
Sure. So the I think uh, so when you try to change status quo, there's always an inertia of the status quo, right? Which makes it difficult to bring about change. Could you just hold on? There seems to be someone at the door. I'm sorry.
Um, Okay, guys, participants, if you have any questions, please type in the chat. एंड मैं पूछ सकती हूँ क्वेश्चन, और आपसे भी बोलूंगी कि आप लोग अनम्यूट करके पूछ सकते हैं. सो प्लीज फील फ्री टू टाइप इन योर क्वेश्चंस इन द चैट.
I'm sorry. There's no one else at home, and there's some delivery. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so now when there is the status quo has vested interests, or the resistance to change is very high and sometimes even violent, right? Narni has been threatened with death. My co-founder Marwan has been beaten up. Our trucks have been hijacked. I don't know, maybe for about 45 times, or vandalized. Our waste pickers thrown into jail. Uh, so, uh, so, so you have to be able to stand up to that, right? I mean, like your grandfather would have said, the only way to stand up to a bully is to stand up, right? Now we are not harassed as much because everyone's realized we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. But so that's one. The second is uh, because we need a consent to operate, right? As I said, waste is a municipal subject. Because you need a consent to operate or rules which allow you to do it, uh, there is always this thing that it could change overnight
Mm.
because of a new government, a new bureaucrat who thinks things should be done differently, and so on, right? So that's a you know, sometimes every day I get up in the morning, I'm not sure how today is going to be because it could change, right? And right now we're going through some of those anxiety in Bangalore because they want to change the way it's been operating so far in terms of the drivers, in many things, right? So, so that has been a big challenge. So what we have needed as companies organize or the not-for-profit is to be clear about what we're trying to achieve and have the tenacity and the resilience, right, to be able to keep jumping back and pivoting or changing or moving, using every means necessary to try and be able to protect what we're trying to do. So that those are the challenges. Of course, access to capital has always been a challenge because of these uncertainties. Not many investors are willing to put money in this, right? So we have had to depend on impact investors more than anything else. I mean, you should ask the question why. I mean, today you will see there's so much waste in the country, and it is such a billion-dollar industry, multi-billion-dollar industry. But why are the Tatas, Reliance not in it? Right? There's a reason because the margins are extremely low. There's high corruption, and so on and so forth, right? Because it's a municipal thing, it's a tendering process, which means L1, which which provides opportunities for cutting corners, and because of the corruption and so on. So it's a difficult sector to play in. I mean, really speaking, if I was just looking at as an entrepreneur to figure out what I want to do which sector I would like to be in, I wouldn't have chosen waste. It was because we chose to work with the community of waste pickers and the informal waste sector players that we are in waste because they know waste best. Otherwise, personally, I don't think I would have chosen waste as a business to be in, right? And if you notice, most waste management startups today have just focused on the easy pickings, which is the dry waste, plastics and
Yeah.
paper and so on, right? Which is already being done. So you need to address the tougher problems like wet waste and stuff like that, right? So, for example, we continue to be the one of the few, or maybe right now, the only waste management company which does collection to compressed biogas. We have our own biogas plant of 40 tons per day capacity, and so end to end, we are able to provide a solution for wet waste. So yeah, it is. That is the problem.
Nice. That's great. And of course, I have another question, but I will um, let's answer this question
Fabian?
that we have. Fabian, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Sure. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for the insights so far. Not the first time I've heard a session by somebody at Hasiru Dala, but this is a different level of insight. So two questions. I've attended quite a few of the seminars and conclaves, and it always seems to be the same few players from the worker-based organizations: Swachh, Chintan, maybe Srishti,
Right.
Trimukhi Sangha, and only in the 3 or 4 main big towns. You don't hear much about it in the sort of eastern coast, northeast, even in the western belts. Why do you think that is? And basically, specifically worker-based. And two, what you were talking about raising capital, you were saying that just as I was typing.
Right.
There is a lot of money that's been raised off late by some of these for-profits in their Series A, Series B, tens of hundreds of crores. But it all seems to be, again, like you said, for plastic recyclers and e-waste recyclers. So where does that really leave, given the limited funding, like you said, where does that really leave end-to-end waste management companies? And more pertinently, where does it leave worker-based organizations such as yourself and Swachh, given
Right.
how little funding there is?
Right. So,
Thank you.
yeah, and it's interesting that of all the names that you have put there, they're all not for profits, right? Including Hasiru Dala, but Hasiru Dala Innovations is the only private limited company which has attempted this, and we call it inclusive circularity, by the way. I think the challenge is that it is a dirty business, unfortunately, right? And you need absolute commitment to the cause to be able to work at this, and it takes time. All right, you're not going to be able to change things overnight. I mean, a simple thing, right? A waste picker, for example, has always been master of her time. Right? She gets up at 3 in the morning, finishes picking by about 7, 8, sorts it in the afternoon, sells it. So she's a master of her time. She's never had an employer-employee relationship. She doesn't know what an SLA is, and so on. Right? So took us time to even educate our waste picker entrepreneurs on consequences of you not doing something that you have promised a customer, right? And they've never had a concept of a paying customer for their service. So how do you make them professional service providers? So it's easier to just start completely new and not and disintermediate them, right? Disintermediate what is there today, giving all kinds of reasons. I mean, it's informal, the working conditions are not the best, and so on. So it takes some doing, unfortunately. It takes a lot of commitment and passion to be at it. And I would say, which is one of the reasons why this has happened, right? And so, so Fabian, I mean, I don't know whether I'm answering your question, but it is, there are easier things to do in life, which is why everyone's gone plastic or e-waste and sort of talk about inclusion sort of as an afterthought. Right? For example, wet waste is so difficult to manage. It stinks within 14 hours when the mercapitans start forming. I mean, can you imagine 40 tons of waste under a shed, and people have to shovel it and put it into the crusher in the biogas plant? It's hard, right? So that is, I think, one of the reasons why this happens. And in terms of capital, one large reason is, as I said, that it is so dependent on legislative things which can change overnight. Now there is with Swachh Bharat and with the EPR rules and SWM rules, people are saying, okay, now it might be becoming an industry, right? And we are all trying to get it recognized as an industry, right? And as a sector, really. So I think things are going to change. We, for example, have been able to raise not too much money, and not at the best valuations, but we have been lucky. Every investor has come to us. We haven't gone after any investor. It's just lucky, I think. All right. But also the other thing that happens, Fabian, is in terms of mission drift, right? You start off with, for example, waste picker centric or informal waste sector centric. But then when you start taking investment, you have pressure in terms of returns, exits and all of that. So you have to be able to manage those expectations, and you can very easily say, let's drop these things which are not as profitable or not as easy to scale and so on, and go after the easy ones, right? So those I think are the reasons, but I think the real reason is it's real hard work and it takes time, and you need that tenacity and patience and resilience to be at it. So I don't know. I hope I answered your question, Fabian.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you did, and also reminded us that it's not an easy thing. Once you take it up, you have to do it.
Right.
There's another question.
Right.
Himanshi has. Himanshi, you can unmute and probably switch on your video also.
Oh, sorry. She's got her hand up.
Yeah, hi, good evening, sir. I'll not be able to switch on the video because I'm in a low network area.
No problem.
And if I'll switch it on, then my voice will begin to crack.
Don't worry.
So thank you so much, Shekar sir. We have heard several videos about you and Hasiru Dala and have learned a lot. But yes, this session has been far more insightful. I'm Himanshi from Gurgaon, and we belong to a citizens group who are trying to work on various solid waste management. As you know, Gurgaon is amongst the city which messes it up the maximum.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to work around policies and ways in which things can be streamlined.
Correct.
So given that we have the Namaste scheme guidelines in place, given that we have the new 2024 regulations draft that may rule out very soon, I would want to understand from you that what should be the prerequisites or the foundational steps that Gurgaon needs to establish before attempting to integrate the informal sector into the waste management. Because I personally believe that nothing can happen before these angels become the torchbearers. So what do you think should be the prerequisite for that?
Sure. I think there are two things, Himanshi, that is extremely important, right? So, for example, we all talk about segregation at source being very foundational, right? Almost a cornerstone of responsible waste management.
Mm-hmm.
But you might have all kinds of IEC activities, everything, going around convincing people that they should segregate. But operationally, right, if it is not collected separately and they see the collector mixing it, they will lose the motivation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, in most ULBs, because of this, don't go to the citizens till you have fixed your operational processes, where you are able to ensure that you have the infrastructure, for example, in the trucks, or the SOPs in place, have trained the workers, the drivers and the collectors to collect it in a segregated manner before you get to change citizens' behavior.
And how did it work in Bangalore? How
the
segregation work there? Because, of course, source segregation is where you start from. That is the base of any solid waste management to go successful.
Yeah. So, for example, early days in 2016, we have done things like we have put a tarpaulin in front of the tower of a residential thing and dump the waste and started segregating there to shame them. Right? We have, for example, we collect wet and rejects in one trip. We collect dry waste as a separate in a separate trip, so that the optics are right. Right? They feel confident that it is being taken and processed properly, responsibly. Right? Right. So things like that. Right? Give feedback, right? You have to train housekeeping, you have to train the collectors to give feedback saying you have put it in the wrong bin, right? Because, I mean, none of us even think of waste, right? I mean, when the doorbell rings, we take the thing while we are on the phone, give the dabba away, right? So you have to continuously give feedback saying, just giving a poster which gave the 3 categories and what goes into each category is not enough, right? You have to keep giving them feedback. So, for example, we actually take photographs of mixed waste and send it back to the client, saying, this is wrong. These are the things that shouldn't be in it, right? So, feedback is another thing, right? So I would say if you want to truly get Gurgaon to do it, work with the municipal corporation to get those operational processes in place, right? Because that is when truly resource recovery will go up, landfilling can come down, and so on, right? The other thing I think is, you have to push the municipal corporation on user fee. It's politically not easy because the local corporator doesn't want to do it, but you have to push for it, right? You have to push for it, and and at least at a bulk generator level get it going. And Gurgaon is full of multi-storied apartments and others, right? If you can at least, because I'm sure in Gurgaon about 50% or more of the waste that is generated is from bulk generators.
Bulk generators, absolutely.
Right. So if you can at least get that part, right, where those people can afford. Let's be very clear about it, right? So get that out of the system and get people like us to start investing in infrastructure, which is in addition to the government. And all that the government has to do is just give land and the right policies. I think, I think organizations such as us, there's so many can truly walk in and be able to do some of this stuff. I would say you have to engage a lot with the local municipal corporation. Unfortunately, it's not easy, right? Because commissioners change. There is a lot of vested interest.
Absolutely.
Right? So, but that is, in my opinion, how we can truly move the needle. People like Monica, I'm sure we work with her from SWMRT here, and been trying a lot to change things in Gurgaon, but it just seems to keep going back to them giving contracts to people who
who closely connected.
Right. So that's the problem.
There's a hole in the bucket everywhere.
Right.
And also for the fact, which I have, whatever little study that I've done on various models in different cities, what I also understand is Gurgaon has more of migrants as the rag pickers versus if I talk about Pune or Bangalore or Indore, there are more natives. So could that be another reason why bringing them on board could be difficult?
Yes, but having said that, all our dry waste collection center operators tend to be native. But all metros today, 50% of the waste pickers are migrants. As I said, because it is the entry barriers are near zero for you and I to become a waste picker, right? So there is yes, a lot of and all our waste picker entrepreneurs in my bulk generator system and the workers are migrants.
Okay.
So
that
so
be
you
a
can
challenge.
include. that need not be a challenge, is what I'm saying.
Great. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay.
I have a question before I ask Somu's question.
Okay.
So that it's let me before the time runs out, let me ask Somu, would you like to unmute and ask your question? He says that we are doing
actually.
Yes, please go ahead.
Right. Thank you, sir, for your kind insight and the efforts that you are taking from corporate world to a different world and doing something that is beneficial to all.
Thank you.
It's really inspiring. I've mentioned some of the things. Probably my question was that what the common citizens, what we can do, we can spread. I am practicing something in my family and in surroundings and try to make themselves. But thing is that when every day in the morning I see the garbage collection truck. By the way, I'm talking from Navi Mumbai.
Okay.
So it is under the Panvel Municipal Corporation.
Right.
So we are very close to Pune. But when I saw in the morning itself, the truck is coming. In spite of segregating the waste into dry and waste, here there is only two sections are there. They keep everything and dumped it all together into that vehicles. And seems to be because I try to educate everything, and finally I saw what the outcome it is coming. So that seems to be very heart-rendering for me. And even in some of the places, in spite of putting, especially in some tourist places and other regions, it's really painful for me to see that thing. This place has been full of litters by the people who are coming there, throwing plates and other things. And unfortunately, either there is no such infrastructure or no education, so nothing like that. They consider rest of the world as the dustbin except their home and inside their car, and that is really a very pathetic thing to see and to tell. So I don't know how we can get rid of these things, and because we wish to have it, but unfortunately it's not happening, sir.
Right. So that's what I was telling Himanshi, right? The optics matter, right? The minute you see the collector mixing it and only cherry picking what can be of value, they typically hang bags at the side of the truck, take the Bisleri bottle or the carton boxes, which they can sell. Everything else gets mixed. All right. So that's also partly because the truck may not have the infrastructure. It may not have 2 compartments, for example. All right. And volumetrically, the dry waste compartment should be larger than the wet waste, right? Because wet waste is dense, while dry waste is volumetric. I mean, in fact, the problem with dry waste is I'm half the time transporting air, right? So which is why I'm saying things like infrastructure, things like educating the collectors are very important. The second thing is, I don't know how it is in Navi Mumbai, whether it's a municipal corporation or a service provider, a tendered service provider. A lot of times they're paid a tipping fee based on the weight of the waste that they deliver to the landfill, right? So it's actually a disincentive for them to segregate, right? Because the more that goes into the landfill, the more they get paid. All right. So tipping fee as a concept should be taken away. It should be a processing fee at a biogas plant and stuff like that. But anyway, so that is, I think, operational processes have to be able to support what you need citizens' behavior to be. Right. For example, let's say in a tourist place, you have bins, right? If you do not have a frequent, emptying of those bins, but it's overflowing, then when when people see that, okay, there is stuff around, they'll just litter, right? So there is, it has to be a combination of making it simple as well as, you have to fine for littering. For example, Bombay was actually doing it for some time. I don't know whether they still do it. If you stopped a cigarette on the road, they would fine you. I've got fined 300 rupees. I remember, right? I mean, the guy was trying to say, the policewoman was trying to say, give me 100 and I will let you go. I said, no, So she walked me to the guy who has the receipt book to get the 300 rupees. But the last thing I would say, Somu, is please keep doing whatever you're doing, and all that you're doing is great. But also remember that unless you get into this full time, there are things within your circle of control, which is what all the specific
Absolutely.
things you're doing as an individual. But there's also a circle of influence, right? Who are the people that you can influence to change? It could be your community, it could be your family, it could be your friends, and these can be done in simple ways, right? For example, when I go drinking with my friends, right, and they order cocktails, and I tell the waiter, do not put a paper straw or a plastic straw in the cocktail. Bring it separately for those who need it, right? Suddenly it becomes a 2-minute conversation. Why did you ask that? Why did you say that? Right? And then I explain why, right? I've even been able to convince one restaurant to get their bartender not to put straws as a rule in the cocktail, but just keep it on the table, right? So that only people who really want to use it use it. So I have been able to convince my local chai wala near my office to stop using paper cups and use thing. And the way I did it, I brought him 2 cups and said, whenever you serve me chai, you serve me only in those cups. Right now he's
That's
changed
really
to
appreciate, sir.
that's glasses, right? So there is a circle of influence, right? So work on your circle of influence, but by example within your circle of control, which is you carry your own cloth bag and so on, right? So that is how I think you bring about change. Unless you're someone like us who have gone into it full time, so we are trying to do it at scale. But as an individual, do what is within your control, but start focusing on your circle of influence.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
I really love that. And I'm going to use that for one of the sessions, Circle of Influence. I know we have crossed 8:30, but I have a question, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Inclusive circularity. Why?
Yeah. Okay. So whenever people talk of the circular economy, they talk about the materials coming back as resources. No one talks about the people who make it happen. All right. So I took the circular economy, and I don't know whether some of you have read about donut economics, which is there is an ecological ceiling beyond which, if you do, you're affecting our planet, and a social floor. Right. So if you think of 2 concentric circles, the inner circle is the social floor. If you go below it in terms of not giving access to healthcare, education, shelter for people, or go pollute so much that you're affecting the planet, so that the ring, the donut ring, if you're able to do business within that, with using those 2 as guardrails, then you would be doing good by both people and planet, right? So I use the concept of circular economy, which is trying to bring back materials as resources so that nothing goes to waste, and the thing about the social foundation together, and said inclusive circularity. So the way we have defined it, obviously is very contextual to us, is the planned and deliberate inclusion of waste pickers and the informal sector players as an integral part of the evolving circular economy, right? And we have even trademarked it. So I think that is the concept we are trying to popularize and bring to thing. And by the way, all our business models are open source. You can come learn from us. You can take our help in setting it up in your own cities. So if anyone is willing to do it, because the waste management problem is such a huge problem and seems intractable, and it needs thousands of Hasiru Dala Innovations to truly address the problem, right? There's no one organization which is going to be able to do it in time. So please, just take anyone who wants to come into the waste business. Please do reach out. We will share whatever we have learned.
Thank you. And I see that Harshad had also joined. I think he dropped out for after some time from Swatch, and
Okay.
But this is like something that I say to all these college students or, people who are wanting to do something, that there is one sector which has no competition. As many people, even lakhs of people, if they join waste management, there is no competition. We need like more. So, of course, rightly said. And thank you so much for that mentoring and, sharing your knowledge and what you've learned, because that's something we all need to figure out I love that for purpose, organization.
Right.
Yes, we're all for purpose, but then that the grants, the funds, because if we work with people who are needy, we need to provide them that basic. And I think people are not interested in funding such programs where they don't get anything in return. But yeah, something will happen. It's like you said, we should be hopeful. Things are changing. Does anyone else have?
I know, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Thank you so much for sharing. Is there any message that you would like to share for all of us who are against all odds, just swimming in this and wanting?
No, I think the fact that all of you have signed on at 7:30 on a weekday shows that you're passionate about this. You want to learn, you want to do, and all that. I think I've got to say to you is, don't get discouraged. Right? Be at it. And as I said, the circle of influence is a very powerful concept, and we underestimate our own ability to affect change, right? And we think, we're just going to be a drop in the ocean and so on. Don't think that way. Just focus on your circle of control, circle of influence, and you will be amazed at how much change you can actually bring about as an individual or as a community or whatever, right?
I was about to say, what is it that can keep us motivated?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. So
hanging on. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining and your patient hearing. And good night and all the best. And let's hope we still have a planet 10 years from now.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thanks, sir. Thanks, Anuja.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Take care.